guys. Oh, hey kitty. Right away she wanted to say hey and almost knocked the camera off. Hey. Alright guys, we're continuing with part 5 of Peter Walker's From Surviving to Thriving PTSD, complex PTSD, from surviving to thriving. Yes, I am tired, but I've been very busy last couple of days, and I know the next 2 will be busy too, so I said screw it, I'm getting on here and continuing on with this work because it's important for not just myself but for all of you that get led to watch these. And God bless you for that, for seeking, for searching, for being willing to set apart even just the idea of healing, because a lot of people don't even do that. They're hidden behind some sort of veil. So good on you for being here with me. Good on us for trying, striving, and for actually doing. We left off in page 27. I'm going to read the last 2 paragraphs where we left off before I continue forward. This is chapter 2. You are free now as an adult to develop peace of mind and a supportive relationship with yourself. A self-championing stance can transform your existence from struggling survival to a fulfilling sense of thriving. You can begin right now by inviting your instincts of self-compassion. They are in there. You might have to get silent with yourself and very honest and vulnerable with yourself to find those places. That self-compassion seed that is definitely residing within you. And the self-protection, that's important too. And the self-protection to awaken and bloom your life. So let me say that again. You can begin right now by inviting your instincts of self-compassion and self-protection to awaken and bloom in your life. Cognitive healing may have begun or been reinforced by reading what has preceded this or listening to it. Hopefully you are having some epiphanies about what is at the core of your suffering. Some readers may have been searching for cognitive answers for years, and through their reading and therapy already created a sizable foundation for doing this work. I know that's where I'm at. At the same time, those who have only tried a cognitive behavior approach to healing. Okay, something about Crestone, Colorado that everyone should know. Sorry for the interruption. The best place ever, except for one thing. Mosquitoes. Like, mosquitoes. Like, holy F mosquitoes. Like, do you see those little bumps on me? And all that itching? Do you see all this? About 2 months of mosquitoes. That's what that is. Anyway. So if you see me spraying with this, is because that's 70% rubbing alcohol, and that helps make them stop. Tonight's my first, and it does work. I saw my friend Brandy, is the one that taught me that. Saw her doing it, and I know it doesn't seem like a big deal, but if you're in Crestone during mosquito season, yeah, you would know why that's an important tip. Anyway, some readers may have been searching for cognitive answers for years, and through their reading and therapy already created a sizable foundation for doing this work. At the same time, those who have only tried a cognitive behavior approach of healing their trauma may feel great resistance to hearing that cognitive work is important. I swear to you, this will be the last interruption. Kitty! Mama! No! Not for the next few minutes. Thank you. I know. Thank you for your patience. You'll get it back in a little bit. Okay. Some readers may have been searching for cognitive answers for years. We already read this. At the same time, those who have only tried a cognitive behavioral approach, or something called CBT, that's cognitive behavior approach, to healing their trauma, may feel great resistance to hearing that cognitive work is important. If you are like me, you may have been introduced to it in a way that promised more than it could deliver. That's important. Expectations can kill a thing. Cognitive tools are irreplaceable in healing cognitive issues. Makes sense? But they do not address all the levels of our wounding. Important to know. They are especially limited in addressing emotional issues, as we will see below. In early recovery, the psychoeducation piece of cognitive work typically comes from the wisdom of others. Makes sense? Teachers, writers, friends, and therapists who are more informed on this subject than we are. When psychoeducation reaches its most powerful level of effectiveness, however, it begins to morph into mindlessness. It begins to morph into mindfulness. So, from what I'm getting out of this, is the more you're open and willing to reach out, observe, go in, also observe the outside and yourself, and be willing to sit in a place of non-judgment, sit in a place of non-comparison, then you're able to be that God observer, as in seeing everything from a non-judgmental, triggering way. Like, if you're just sitting there not making judgments and not making comparisons, and you're looking at something, looking for the best possible outcome, like if you're looking at the person and seeing their best attributes and focusing on those and encouraging them to proceed their actions with how you saw them to be, if they could actually, if they think that they're a piece of shit, and you tell them, no, you're fucking amazing, and here's a list of all the reasons why, you may literally be changing that person's life by actually changing the way they think about themselves and the world around them by turn, by rehearsal, by repetition in your own world. And that's how it begins. You're able to see that in yourself, not think negatively of yourself, actually be able to be compassionate with yourself and see the best of who you are in yourself and act from that place. That's when you become the person that you're supposed to be, free of all the past, free of trauma. And that's when you rehearse that enough times, and that becomes who you are by rehearsal and practice. You can't suddenly have it and then stop, or you'll lose it again. If you really want to be yourself, you have to consciously see yourself and the world around you by turn, the world around you in that light. And that doesn't mean kumbaya forever on everyone. I mean, there's definitely those places where you have to be smart enough, wise enough, experienced enough to be able to like put boundaries up like that with some people so that you can stay in a higher vibration. I hope that all made sense, but that's what I'm capturing from this. That in early recovery, the psychoeducation piece of cognitive work typically comes from the wisdom of others. That's where it begins if you can't find it within yourself, because you need to be able to see an example of it before you know it even exists, much less understand that you're able to have that for yourself, that attribute that you see in that exterior world that is teaching you ultimately how to be the best you. In early recovery, the psychoeducation piece of cognitive work typically comes from the wisdom of others, teachers, writers, friends, and therapists who are more informed on the subject than we are. When psychoeducation reaches its more powerful level of effectiveness, however, it begins to morph into mindfulness. Right? Mindfulness. Dun dun dun! We've all heard this word so much. I remember for like the first few years that I even understood, like even heard the concept of mindfulness or the word mindfulness, I was like, kind of got it, kind of did it, kind of almost grasped it, but I wasn't sure until, of course, now, that being in the now moment of compassion, of non-comparison, and non-judgment. Mindfulness. Psychologically speaking, let me try that again. Psychologically speaking, mindfulness is taking undistracted time to become fully aware of your thoughts and feelings so that you can have more choice in how you respond to them. Perfect definition. Do I really agree with this thought? Or have I been pressured into believing it? AKA, is this mine or someone else's? How do I want to respond to this feeling? AKA, choosing your response, choosing, not reacting, but deciding on how to proceed ahead as opposed to just reacting. AKA, how to stay out of drama. Okay. Let me go back. How do I want to respond to this feeling? Distract myself from it? Repress it? Express it? Or just feel it until it changes into something else? If you have time to. Sometimes when you're trying not to react and you got pushed, you might find yourself stepping into that drama anyway. But you'll be faster at catching yourself. Saw a mosquito. Dead for a second. Mindfulness is a perspective. Mindfulness is a perspective that weeds your capacity for self-observation with your instinct of self-compassion. That's huge. Please take a moment, breathe in, and understand this sentence. Mindfulness is a perspective that weds your capacity for self-observation with your instinct of self-compassion. No drama can come from that, if you can hold that. The times I do, I don't know if I could explain how. And the times where I didn't, it's because I didn't see how out. I'm still a work in progress. Still a work in progress. Be self-compassionate with yourself and know that about yourself. It is therefore your ability to observe yourself from an objective and self-accepting viewpoint. It is a key function of a healthily developed ego. It's mental health. It's emotional intelligence. It is a key function of a healthy developed ego and is sometimes described as the observant ego, or like what I called it earlier, the God point, the point of view of God, the God point, the viewpoint of God. It is a key function of a healthily developed ego, and it's sometimes described as the observant ego or the witnessing self. Mindfulness is a perspective of benign curiosity about all of your inner experience. That's shadow work, guys. Think of the word shadow work for those of you that know about it. Diving deep into your feelers, allowing yourself to feel them, or getting them in check depending on what part of the bipolary you are on. with your emotional intelligence or your blocks. Mindfulness is a perspective of benign curiosity about all of your inner experience. Recovery is enhanced immeasurably by developing this helpful process of what they call introspective. Dun, dun, dun. So introspective, mindfulness, it's the same thing. As it becomes more developed, mindfulness can be used to recognize and disidentify from beliefs and viewpoints that you acquired from your traumatizing family. Yeah, that's a mic drop one right there. Rewind it if you didn't hear it. I cannot overstate the importance of becoming aware of your inner self commentary. Remember the critic or the committee of critics, depending on who you are or where you're at in your journey. I cannot overstate the importance of becoming aware of your inner self commentary. With enough practice, mindfulness eventually awakens. Did I mention practice? With enough practice, mindfulness eventually awakens your fighting spirit to resist the abusive refrains from your childhood and to replace them with thoughts that are self-supportive. Mindfulness also helps you to establish a perspective from which you can assess and guide your own efforts of recovery. You know what that's called also? That last part? It's called sovereignty. That's from going from being a victim, barely surviving, to thriving as a fully embodied human being. And there's a lot of levels for that. And I love where I'm at in my levels. And my hope is that you get to love where you're at, even if it's still partially hell. Even if you still feel confused and alone and misunderstood. That's you right now. If you can figure out a way to be mindful, to be introspective, to be emotionally intelligent enough to look at it through the eyes of God, you're going to start being able to see your situation with excitement as you and how you function start to change. And you start making better choices. And life gets easier in the important ways. For me personally, there was a time where I wasn't able to function. That time wasn't that long ago. I'm 41. And I remember 2 times where I couldn't function, where I was a cripple. That's when my back went out for 3 weeks once, and I was poor and alone and had been self-isolating. So there was not many people there for those 3 weeks. Except Anthony Chavez, who brought me a pumpkin pie. I think that was around the same time. But anyway, point is I couldn't move from this couch. My back was so jacked up. My neck, specifically my neck, I couldn't move. I think my paycheck for those weeks was $25. I was devastated. And I figured out how to get myself up from that by realigning my neck with somebody told me to put rice in a sock, put the sock in the microwave, and then lean into it really hard, and it worked. So there's that life tip. But the other time where I was literally unable to function, I was 35, well 36 going into 37, second year of marriage. I had to stop working. I had to go into my boss and over at in Temecula. It was a great company. I hope they go back into business right now. COVID's got them out of commission. But I had to go tell my boss, I know I just barely getting into this, and you have no idea how incredible at this I would be. This is what I was thinking in my heart. Because I'd been really successful in theater tech before, but I couldn't function. at 36 and 37. So I had to go tell my tech bosses that I fuck my 19 years of theater tech experience, that I actually couldn't function, couldn't even get to work on time. You don't do that in that sort of line of work. And what should have come easy and awesome to me, what I fucking should have totally excelled at, because I had for previous 19 years, I couldn't do it because I was in dysfunction and I was crippled with my entirety of my past history coming back to say, you can deal with it now. You're gonna deal with it now. And 14 years of sexual abuse and a narcissistic family. Not all of them. My grandpa was great. I'm sure a lot of the rest of my family is too, but I was kind of separated from them because that's the dynamics of an abusive family. But I wasn't able to function because all that emotion came up and all that reality check came up and all the cause and effect came up, and at 36 into 37, I was useless. I had to quit my job, and I laid in a bathtub most of the fucking year, high as a kite, on a very strong drug called methamphetamine. Because that's what I had used for a long time to be successful, because I didn't have to deal with anything. As long as I kept smoking and kept being an overachiever, no one could be the second guesser, and I didn't have to deal with anything. But I didn't know I wasn't dealing with anything. I just found something that made me not feel horrible. That by default, because it's really just the same family as ADHD medicine, and ADHD, as we've talked about, is just trauma, hypervigilance due to trauma. That's how you grew up as a kid. You've been fucked since you were 4. You think you're gonna be a little HD? That's dysfunction. You weren't brought up proper. You weren't protected. You weren't. Whatever your trauma is, if it comes from you being a kid, you need to know that. That wasn't your fault. But as an adult, you have to relearn. You have to recognize these things, learn to see these things, and fuck yeah, it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be very hard. It's gonna suck. It's gonna suck so hard. Your ego's gonna die multiple times. Over and over and over and over and over and over again, because every time you see the effect of the trauma on you and you see how it made you respond to the world and you fucking swallow that is everything from shame to confusion to anger to like resentment to regret, everything. You're like, that shouldn't have been my life, and you get all angst and until you realize, well, there ain't dick shit I can do about it. Sorry, I broke the cussing. There ain't nothing I can do about it. There's nothing I can do about it. It already happened. Now what? I'm an adult. Now what? Feel your feelings. Then learn to control them enough to process them, to forgive yourself. All that starts there. Not to be flippant about the process, but you need to know that's where it started for me. God willing, that's not how it starts for you, but from my understanding of trauma and drug addiction and bad relational abilities, it'll wreck your life, bro. It will wreck your life if you don't start looking at the situation and yourself and being able to be mindful and be introspective and start figuring it out so you can get over it, so you can get all those emotions in check where they go, because sometimes they're necessary, but not the way they are currently. If you're watching this, probably, or have at one point thoroughly abused yourself by not being an adult and being mindful and taking control of your life, being sovereign. This is probably way longer than 30 minutes. This is a brand new phone. Yay! So I don't know if, because the other phone was really old. Had a Utah number, for crying out loud. I never even lived in Utah. I think I visited once for 3 days. Anyway, it's nice to have a nice new phone. And I have no idea. Oh, this is 25 minutes. Hey, we still made it under 30 minutes. So we got one more sentence. I might as well finish her off since it's one more sentence before this part of the book breaks. Let's see. I cannot overstate the importance of becoming aware of your inner self-commentary. With enough practice, mindfulness eventually awakens your fighting spirit to resist the abusive refrains from your childhood and to replace them with thoughts that are self-supportive. Mindfulness also helps you to establish a perspective from which you can assess and guide your own efforts of recovery. You do this work, all you'll need is you. To be awesome. To be your best you. Chapter 12 contains detailed instructions for enhancing mindfulness, as do the writings of Stephen Levine. Thank you, sir, for your work. Jack Kornfield and John Kabat-Zinn. Okay, there's the break in the chapter. Thank you very much, guys. I hope this is of help. That it helps you be just more prepared and more aware, so you'll be willing to do your shadow work. Good night, guys. Namaste. Much love. And we'll leave off with something cute. Isn't this the best cat / cup saying ever? It's adorable. Alright, guys. Much love. Buenas noches.